It's so crazy to think how easy it would be for me to become a fugitive. At this point, all I'd have to do is leave town. It would be so easy and immediately so exciting. To be honest with you, I've been fantasizing about this since I was arrested and locked up 3.5 years ago. There's actually only one real thing that's kept me from doing it, and it isn't the threat of being locked back up again. It's funny, my first thoughts of creating a YouTube channel came to me when I was sitting in county jail. The idea was that I was going to take the first opportunity that was presented to me to just escape somehow and then go on the run and then make a YouTube channel documenting my life as a fugitive. That probably would be a really good channel, actually. But being in county jail, I didn't really see any means to escape. I was locked down in a cell the whole time. And once I was sentenced and transferred over to NNCC, the first prison facility that I was at, that was locked down in a cell all the time as well. No hopes of escaping from there either. But eventually I was transferred to a prison work camp, which is like a minimum security situation. It would have been pretty difficult to like run away from that facility itself, but we spent each day going out on a fire crew doing wildland firefighting work and just being out in the forest. And there were plenty of times out there when I'm just like looking around, depending on like what kind of group I was in, who was in the line of sight, where I was like, I could just run away right now. I remember frequently going through my head like, what could I do to run away from here and avoid being recaptured? Then after the prison work camp, it was house arrest for 2 years. In that situation, I had a GPS ankle monitor strapped to me, but I was left alone all the time. And I could just cut that thing off, and although it would immediately alert them that the thing had been cut, and they would start calling me going, hey, what's going on? Where are you? You need to come in right away. I would always sit there and just plan like, okay, what would I do? When would I cut it? What would I have set up in the world to like get my ass out of there? Me cutting off the ankle monitor, it's not like, Ted Bundy escaping from maximum security life sentence. Like, I'm sure that they wouldn't be throwing many resources at me. Now, finally, I'm on parole, and this is like, I could leave town anytime. It would take them weeks before they would even notice that I was gone if I stopped communicating with them and stopped checking in. And man, is it tempting. I'm telling you, when you are in a situation where you're being held against your will, but there are means of escape, like it's you think about it a lot. Even as far as I've come, I still think about it now. This is actually the hardest part because I just want to be done with this thing. And man, being on the run would be so exciting. Like always having to be concerned about like who you're sharing your identity with and like what systems you're being put into when you're trying to like maneuver around this world, like this crazy world that's so connected and stuff. It sounds like right up my alley. Such an adventure. And what's the worst case scenario consequence? They rearrest you and put you back in there for the rest of your sentence. And in Nevada at least, it really isn't bad in there. I actually had a really productive time when I was behind the walls. With the crazy fast pace of this world that we live in, with all of the distractions and the things that are trying to get your attention all the time and just everything that's going on, it was such a relief actually to be in there and just have all of the options taken away, all of the distractions taken away, and just left to work on yourself. And there's plenty of work to do. There's a lifetime worth of work to do for me on myself. So you could lock me by myself in a cell in solitary confinement. As long as you give me stimulating stuff to read and there's enough room for me to do burpees, I'm happy. I actually experienced the most stillness and contentment and like sense of well-being that I've ever experienced in my life sitting in cells in prison. So I'm not like worried about getting rearrested. Getting rearrested isn't a deterrent for me because it was like so horrible in there or something. Just mind my own business, stay out of stuff, work on myself. No problem. So what is stopping me from going on the run and living that adventure that I crave so much right now? Well, the answer is goals. You guys didn't think I was going to bring it back to what we've been talking about on this Sunday morning laundry series for the past month or so. This last week was Diligence Week, where I was prioritizing setting clear goals, moving steadily towards them, and using time efficiently and avoiding unnecessary delays. Goal setting was a practice I started while I was in county jail still, actually. I started deeply thinking about the things that I wanted and the direction I wanted my life to be going in, and I literally started writing out goals like mission statements for my life with time frames on them and very specific things that I wanted to achieve. And I've continued to do that ever since, always referring back to the goals I set, analyzing whether they need updates or whether I've accomplished them and I need to set new ones. So yeah, I have a new one right here that I literally just wrote for myself. So as far as my circumstance with the prison thing goes, I'm obviously kind of making light of it, and there's a lot more to it than that, but I am serious about how making goals early on in this process has really kept me going and has really kind of kept the North Star in view. And I'm 100% certain that I've made far more progress than I ever would have if I hadn't deliberately kind of set the course. It's very possible that without that, after all of this time going through all this stuff, I might have taken an opportunity to just do something crazy because it would have been more exciting and fulfilling in the moment. But when I had to put decisions like that up against, you know, the goals I had set, it became very clear that they were incompatible. I couldn't seek instant gratification and play the long game at the same time. Obviously, this is coming from a pretty extreme circumstance, but it absolutely applies across the board in any life situation. If you don't know where you're going, you're not going to get there. And if you only have a vague idea of where you're going, that's not going to be enough to keep you from the temptations that are arising all around you all the time in this crazy world right now. It's really hard to exhibit the strength to avoid all of the bullshit if you're not clear about where you're going. Figure out what you want, write it down, make it specific, read it every day, and you'll start seeing real changes in your life. All right, see you soon.